Right. Right then.
Well, today we're going to start something slightly different, slightly more practical than we usually do. And part of the big project, the overall project we're doing on life in the city, includes a sort of social study of a particular part of Nottingham. What we're going to do is centre our attention, focus our attention about a group of young people given up everything perhaps that you're working for, your jobs and the money that you'll get when you start working, you leave school, given up all this and gone to St Anne's to see if they can help the people in St Anne's.
Well, that very briefly is the craft centre set ourselves is really made.
Well, as we know, St Anne's has a reputation of a place, a poor area, which is at present being redeveloped. Now, first of all, would anybody like to give me a description? You all live at least fairly closely to St Anne's. A description of the area. What's your first impression of it?
Being an old lady used to live on our street, sir. But when she moved to St Anne's, one of them flats, about 3 weeks later, sir, she died.
Yes.
So
And what do you think the reasons for her early death or sudden death were?
I think she was so used to the street she was living on, sir. She'd been on there for 54 years, sir.
So you think that perhaps redevelopment in itself is not enough? Any more stories about the conditions of people who live in St Anne's?
There was an old woman on Wells Road who lived in one of the council houses, and the floorboards went rotten, and she was walking over them and she fell in, and she died, and she wasn't found for about a week after. And yes, I think it was in the paper, the Post.
And no one had come to see her?
She never had no visitors.
Well, I'm sure this is the sort of situation which the Craft Centre, with its help, helping people help themselves, creating an atmosphere of help between people that will be avoided. And what we want you to do is to go out into St Anne's with this group of people, find out what they do, where they live, and what their job is, and what their ideals, and what their hopes and aspirations are.
In the course of the next fortnight, find out all you can. We'll make some rotas for you to go down. And we haven't told you this yet, but the crunch is that in a fortnight's time, the 8 people who are in the Craft Centre are going to come up here to this classroom and have a real ding-dong discussion. They're going to explain to you then, really, in some detail, what they think and why they're doing it. By that time, a lot of you should know quite a bit about them and have formed your own ideas.
Well done. I think I've gone too far. What have we got to get today? Have we got any vegetables to pick up?
We've got to pick up some food, some fish, a few other things. We've got potatoes to collect today, haven't we?
I've got Gladys's chimney to sweep Victoria's building.
I was thinking of going to Pearson's to pick up the old display things, you know, that they've got there. Well, just that I noticed they changed the display, you know, a few days ago, so we might as well try and see what we can have.
If all you could help me, please, I'm from the playground down the bottom. I'm wanting his shoes for the little boy down there.
Have we got any shoes? Little kids' shoes?
How are these ones? Do you want some more?
No, you're all right. Brenda, there's only just the one little boy. That's enough, you know. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Go back.
Have you noticed all the puddles on the way up there? Crazy.
There are 6 of us living at the Crafts Centre, communally, in a house that we have for a nominal rent from Nottingham Corporation. We came to St Anne's because the local Tenants and Residents Association, SATRA, had already built up a sense of community spirit, and so while working with SATRA, we hope to take things a stage further, where we won't just be propping up the welfare services, but developing a community which will care for all its needs. What we'd really like to see is a society based on love and care for one another, instead of one based on the profit motive, which really seems to encourage competition and selfishness.
Like me getting worn out.
Oh.
There's a little bush that side, but
If we just put something heavy on, then it won't come down. That'll do for that. Okay, I'll go on the roof.
You happy about that? I don't think it'd be best to sit there because soot might come down. All the food we eat we beg for, and though we had some opposition at first, we'd go to the shopkeepers and explain that we were working to fulfil needs in the community, and ask them would they in their turn fulfil our needs by making gifts of food to us. This being the sort of attitude that we want to see in a society based on our ideas. So most mornings someone will go from the centre into town and beg food from those shops that are prepared to give to us.
What is it, usual?
6 again.
Right.
There we are. Okay, well, see you next week.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
To me, it's a very sort of unconscious idea. It's something within me. You know, something I feel I ought to do and have to do. You know, because I didn't feel natural at work. There were so many games we were playing.
I was brought up a Quaker, and I was brought up to believe that there's good in everybody, because this is a basic Quaker principle. I can't hate a person, and you can disagree with them intensely on the way they go about things or what they're doing, but everybody has good in them, and if you can only find this piece of good in everybody, and that's what we're trying to do, you know, to encourage the good, whereas lots of things today encourage the bad.
Could I speak to Mr. Fish, please? Oh, Mr. Fish, would you come down to the ground floor? Thank you. Oh, yes, will you down?
Hello. Can I help you at all?
Yes, well, as you know, I'm from the St Anne's Community Craft Centre.
Yes.
And often you help us with items from your display windows. That's where the displays
Right, now what do you want today then?
In the past you've given us felt or the PVC, or sometimes if you have, you know, these, well, I mean at present it's these little carved flowers which the children like.
Well, shall we go
and they
upstairs
can-
and rummage around in the sock room and see
Yes.
what we can find? Okay,
Oh, right,
come on.
Okay, thank you.
You got on there a minute? Keeping all those people very happy. Super. Here we are, once again. Right, you admire those flowers, didn't you, hanging from the store downstairs?
Children, you know, those
Well, these
are
are
marvellous.
what we have left, so you can have some of those. Aren't they super?
Gorgeous, and all the different
All
different
reds and
colours.
oranges and yellows.
Oh, they're
Very
beautiful.
exciting.
Actually, they'd make lovely mobiles, those would.
That's not it. I
Wouldn't
think I
they?
might sell them
you could-
privately. No, I won't give them to you, actually. I'll sell them privately.
No!
Right. Now, look, you take those for today, okay, so
Yeah.
you can show the children tonight.
Yeah.
But when you want the large quantities from the store, when we take them
Yeah.
all down, it'll be about 4,000 strings of those flowers. So you'll be able to decorate the whole of St. Anne's, won't you, really? I'll have them put on a van for you and sent to the St. Anne's Hall. Okay. Bye-bye. Nice meeting you again. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Looks like clay. Love this clay.
That's it.
I can make one. Mike,
Not very hairy, does it?
I want clean one, Mike.
Start again
Mike.
then. Only one eye? Oh.
Looks like a puppy. Let's have a look.
Mouth.
That's in, Rose. And there. Can you help me to put the windows in?
Yeah, you can help put the windows in, and you can hold the tools for me. Okay?
Can I help you?
Yeah, I suppose you're all going to help, are you?
Yeah.
You better.
Can Papa?
Yeah, we'll have everybody helping. Yeah, you got to look after those.
What's this?
What is it? That's for cutting the glass with, if we have to cut it.
Get some paper.
See what we need now. Who's got the knife? Oh, you have. Yeah, David. Oh, don't cut it yet. Yeah, I don't know who's got it.
No. It's cracked the window.
Tell you what we'll do, Brian. The local tenants association, SATRA, have helped pay for the running of our van, and in return we help them with odd jobs such as removals.
No, no way to.
So if you take, you get on with this one, I'll follow you. If you follow me with that one, then I'll follow you. You can go down behind. That's it, Richard. That's it. Yeah. Come on, look then. You can't now.
Yeah, you know,
Oh, behind the door?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I think perhaps one of the biggest steps that people in St Anne's will ever make is the moving to the new when the old is being redeveloped. But in turn, the high rents of the new council houses create quite a serious problem. And just taking Mick and Mo, for instance, who have 3 children, to pay the high rents and heating costs, Mo will have to go out to work in the morning, and Mick will be on permanent afternoon shift, meaning he doesn't get home till late in the evening. And perhaps the only time they'll really see the children and be together as a family is going to be on Sundays.
Have you heard from your teacher about the way we live? And how did you manage to write? What did you make of all that?
Well, I don't mind. I think that you're doing a good job, so you should be paid some money for it by the government.
Oh, no. I mean, the way we work is to involve all the local community in trying to control a lot of their activities, you know. And some people sort of, well, look down on us because they say, well, you're interfering because the local authorities provide these facilities, so and they should do it. Why are you stepping in to do it?
Don't you ever feel that you want to just chuck the job in sometimes, really depressed with it?
No, because every night is different. People are different. These children are different every night. You know, I love them. I couldn't chuck them in. Every afternoon after school, we run a play centre in a local church hall. You can't set yourself apart from children. You know, we don't want an authoritarian relationship with the children. It's just that they like you, and perhaps they like you as a friend, you know. It's, because you can speak their language and just muck in with them. I get a lot of kicks, you know, just out of watching children play or when they're doing sewing. You know, I really love it. You know, I get caught up in what they're doing. And both me and the child will get sort of excited about it. You start talking about it, and perhaps sometimes you think, hello, what am I doing? You know, it's always doing the sewing. Why am I getting so het up over it?
It seems a shame that when children are in infant school and early junior school, that the emphasis is on play and sort of experimentation, but that it only leads to an ability to fit into the classroom later on. You know, it is then directed towards learning, and learning with a capital L, you know, with the end result that you're turned out into a particular slot to fit into. You know, if the aspect of play could go on all the way through, I mean, playful learning, it's like learning a language. You have a set syllabus to learn, and learning the language doesn't give you any insight into the culture of the language. It doesn't make you aware of other people. It doesn't teach you to love, really. It teaches you to compete.
noticed when we arrived in the area was that, you know, we started a play centre for young people, but there was nothing at all for the old folks. And we all agreed that it would be good to have it as a community activity, with food coming in from the shopkeepers and local mothers preparing and cooking the food. And in fact, you know, the community organising this meal service for the old folk. And the big obstacle to me was, what on earth are the shopkeepers going to say when we confront them with providing meals once a week for 30 pensioners? But eventually we found 3 butchers and a fishmonger, all of whom were willing to work together on a rota system and provide meat and fish. The only problem was desserts. And quite spontaneously, you know, mothers started bringing in pies and jellies and trifles.
He's not putting it up now so much. Thank you. Okay, no, don't, but thank you very much.
It lets people know that we're cared for, that somebody worries. All these people giving up the time, and the young ones, I think it's marvellous and great credit's due to them. And we do appreciate it, I'm sure that everybody here does.
You'll live to be 100.
Be 100 if we keep coming here, don't worry. I'm 73 now, we're still going strong. And you see these dinners, the doctor said I didn't get enough to eat. Well, this has made it a bit better for one day. It's the goodness behind it all that counts, and the help that they give. Because, I mean, otherwise there'd be quite a few that wouldn't have a meal, except perhaps a bit of bread and butter or something at home, whereas they can come and they've got the comfort, a good meal, and it's like a dinner and a tea thrown in.
Meals on Wheels isn't enough, really, because an old person might not necessarily just need food, but he or she might need the company. And with Meals on Wheels, a WRVS lady rushes in, puts the meal in front of them, has about 2 minutes chat, and then has to rush out again. And probably that person would have appreciated the company. And the lunch club solved that problem, because you can bring lonely folk out of their houses.
Ah, can you see them pigeons?
Oh, the pigeon's coming now. Yeah, they're stubborn today.
Yeah, coming.
Are they coming?
Coming a bit lower anyway.
They're still very scared, I think. There's your tea.
Right, thank you very much. Now you sit still, you're going to be yours in a minute.
Do you remember Mrs. Sisson over in the new houses? And Mrs. Moon went over in Father Alfred's van and got all shaken up.
In the minibus.
Yeah. Well, we're taking her meals now, because she's been, you know, not very well at all. And when we all went to Mrs. Todd's school, we were pleasantly surprised, because the building from the outside has always looked very dark and gloomy to me. And going into the infants section, one found very bright classrooms and a whole variety of activities going on. Show me. Oh, I see. Hey, that's great. What do you do here? Okay, you find a picture, do you? Of the kettle? Is that what you're looking for? Shall we see if we can find it together? It isn't that one, is it?
Kettle.
That's it. Let's find another one. You found tortoise. You're getting very good at this.
What had occurred to me, you know, over the last couple of weeks, actually there's 2 children in particular, one called Paul, who's about 9, and a boy called Mark, who I saw coming through the playground, who's about 8, you know. Yeah. And Mark has fits of temper quite often when he comes up to us, you know. It takes him about, say, 3/4 of an hour to settle down. And in that time, settling down, he can be very destructive, you know. And this is, 20 minutes after he's come out of school.
Yeah, we find this with our children. They come in and had a particularly bad morning, and they'll paint a black picture. No, won't paint anything else, just paint everything black. And they're very destructive towards the other children's work.
Yeah.
I should think it's...
And Paul, who was quite worrying, he spent about 4 days off out of 1 week. You know, in the first couple of days he said he'd got a bad cough and he didn't want to go. And by the Thursday he was saying, well, he just didn't want to go. And on the Friday he was saying why he didn't want to go. And it took him a long time to spit it out, but he said the work was too hard, you know, which is really quite worrying, you know, because he's, what, 8 or 9, and at that age to sort of recognise within himself that he can't do the work that he's being set. I don't know what it is, I haven't the faintest idea, you know. I don't think it's because he disliked school particularly. He really seemed bothered that he couldn't cope. But it'd be interesting for us to see how much the school does take on the child's problems, you know. And from outside, you assume that the school just takes them in the morning, provides lessons for them, you know, and sends them off at 3:30, 4 o'clock at night.
Perhaps we ought to give just a little bit of our background and why we're doing it, because perhaps you don't quite understand why. Well, I think we've all been interested in social problems up and down the country for a long time. And when we thought about what we wanted to see, we decided that the first thing was that we must have a society which is based on feelings of love and cooperation. Because again, I think in today's society, we're often encouraged to be selfish. And probably you've heard stories or read stories or even known facts about long-haired people who are looked upon as hippies or who take drugs and who lead a very decadent way of life. And I want you to be very honest. You know, what did you feel when you first saw us?
When you see him, the first impression that comes into your mind is that these people, you know, go around writing and that, you know, that's the first impression you get when you see a bloke or a bloke with a long hair. Because me looking to some of you remind me of the hippies that take drugs and things like that, you see. To me, you're just the same as hippie, really, the way you are. Long hair, beard, and, you know.
But now you do know us. I mean, do you still have this stereotyped impression? I mean, do you still feel that we go for riots and things?
No, now that I've seen you and talked to you, it's different, you know. If I see one of you now, you know, I don't say, oh, he's one of them. I say, oh, he's a good bloke, you know, I know him.
Yes, but also perhaps, you know, having made that judgment of us, perhaps now if you saw a long-haired person in the street, you wouldn't immediately think, oh, he's a hippie, he takes drugs. You might have an open mind about people now, and you might think, well, he looks a bit like those craft centre people. I wonder what he does, you know, or, you know, I'd be interested to know what he's up to. Do you feel that the present society is a fairly happy one? I mean, do you feel that there is room for change, or are you content with things as they are? What do you think about the world outside as it is today?
I'm bringing all the coloured people. Get you not out.
Yeah, but what, you've come into England, why not you go back and fetch everyone into your country?
And like he says, we could come to England, and then the English could go to Australia.
What would happen to the country if everybody went like you? Because you're talking people into your society, but if everybody went in, what would happen to the country?
What we'd like to see happen to the country is that as more and more people join us, so more and more people will stop thinking about money and all the material needs, but they'll start thinking about, well, fulfilling some of the needs in their own communities. And we hope this will gradually spread. But it's just that we wouldn't have the profit motive.
If Britain went into that sort of society, where are we going to get the money from to get stuff from other countries? Because Britain can't supply enough for the people in Britain itself.
Well, that's a very good point, because obviously Britain isn't self-supporting, and this is, the idea has to spread over the whole of the world, or at least amongst those countries which could support Britain.
Lots of people have wanted to come and join us, and there's a centre starting in Manchester very soon. There's one in Liverpool, or near Liverpool, out in the country, that's going right now. We've had letters from some people in Aberdeen who want to start one similar. There's another sort of vaguely similar thing going in Hull. you know, the idea is spreading all over the country, and there are people willing to commit themselves to this way of life.
And we hope that there will be groups in France and Germany, groups in America, groups, well, in all parts of the, you know, of the world, so that, you know, we can cooperate with each other. Perhaps another thing that's hard for you to understand is that it's a very long process to change things.
The government is bound to stop things like this before they get any progress.
You know, although we're trying to do something different, if you notice, we're also providing for people's needs, and we're also working in a helpful way. And because of that, we hope that even the government will look kindly on us, and if they feel frightened of us, then, well, I mean, we'd have to be very, very large in number for that. Could any of you see yourselves doing this work when you left school?
If the point is, though, if any of us lot here want to do your sort of work, we've wasted 2 years of his life stopping on to do the CSC examinations.
I stayed on till I was 16, which isn't very long, you know, but I've learned much more since I left school. And what I learned at school, I haven't been able to apply in anything, really, apart from reading and writing.
Perhaps you're a little worried about your exams and your qualifications, but although we don't have a lot of the material luxuries, we do have other things that compensate for that, that make up for it. Perhaps you ought to come and spend a whole day with us, you know, and not just see us at the play centre, but you ought to come in your holidays and spend a day working with us and watching us eat. And we don't eat cabbage all week.
Call these luxuries, can you? Taking children on your back and running around all over the place. You can't call them luxuries, can you? I mean, luxuries, you know. Yes, when we go home, it's cold. Sit, take a chair, sit, you know, put your feet on the fire, warm them up. That's what I do. On the fire. Oh, I just don't like your way of life. Oh, well, the ideas and, you know, the ways of your society. I'd rather be in the other society. You're working.
You see, to us, you know, we find that materialism gives rise to a lot of the problems we've got today, because not everyone can have as much as they would like. And I don't know, we seem to get a lot of happiness out of working for other people and, you know, in serving others.
It must be hard for my parents to understand me, because they were brought up in working class areas and have spent all their life getting out of an area like that. And my father, well, saved money and just kept saving and saving until, well, a year and a half ago, they found the bungalow and they moved to Broadstairs. And I think for them it must be difficult, because I obviously didn't want that sort of life, and I couldn't have gone and lived with them in Broadstairs and Ted Heath and everything else that goes on down there. And in fact I seem to have gone back along the path that they've been rushing along to get out. and now I'm working in an area very much like the one that they were both brought up in. And it must be, I don't know whether it's disappointing for them, but it must be hard for them to understand that I've rejected their material desires. And then when I told them I was going to work in the mobile teams, well, I don't know whether they felt disappointed. I think by then they'd given up with me. I know my father always said to me, he said, "Oh well, Jill, you're a wanderer and you'll always be a wanderer." But then when he saw that I was there, you know, 1 year, 2 years, and now what, 3 years, and I'm still right into the ideas and I'm very determined to carry on, I think that they begin to accept the fact that I'm always going to do something unusual. One of the meetings we attended was at Clifton College.
And do you see in the situation that you're in related to the social structure of cities, the rotting inner centres? And if so, aren't the solutions really the rationale of it on a reorganisation of urban environment?
I think as cities get larger and larger, people become less and less important, and always the centralisation takes place because you're dealing with so many human beings. And I seriously question so-called progress and technological achievement, because I think efficiency is geared towards the wrong motive. Again, efficiency is always what is most profitable. But when one says this, people think, oh, you're being idealistic, you're looking for a dream. You know, we've got technology and it's here to stay, you must discount all these ideas. And yet our very way of life is trying to prove that we can build an alternative structure, and it can be an economic structure based on need, and it can be decentralised. You know, instead of having very large monoliths of industry, you could have small, more personal factories.
But as we are now a crowded island which necessarily needs to export and, what shall I say, needs to exploit the engineering skills, the high level of technical skills we've got in this country, and must necessarily be an exporting nation in order to import some of the food we cannot possibly grow here on local basis, then you are facing a form of machinery and economics that you can't beat, except at very local levels in a very small way. So I don't want not to pull down your idealism too much, because I admire what you're doing, but I do think that to some extent that your ultimate aims are unrealisable.
We haven't got this big stereotype master plan that we're going to live to and that we're going to develop our new society on. Obviously, these problems of industry and exporting and import are going to come, you know, they're going to come towards us, and we're going to have to face them. But I don't see them as insurmountable. I think they can be faced, and things can be worked out so that you don't have this big thing of you having to export to maintain your balance of payments or whatever it is. I really don't see that you have to.
An increasing population, which is now, I think, getting near to 60 million, can produce its own food. As simple a question as that. But the point is, to get anything done, you're going to have to convince lots and lots and lots of other people.
The one at Clifton College of Education. I know I felt very inadequate because there were lecturers who had a vast knowledge of their subject. I don't know who the man was, but he was talking about economics, and he could ask us very, deep economic questions which we really couldn't answer on the same level as him, because, I'm not an intellectual and I never will be. I can understand things and I'm still very certain that the way of life I'm leading is right, and I'm still clear up to a point the direction I'd like to go in, but it's just answering people and trying to make them understand that we don't have all the answers, but at the same time not making us look flimsy or weak.
If you go back to the economic argument that people used against you at the meeting at Clifton, that the economy of the country is too complex for someone like you to tackle it. And it struck me at the time that, in fact, that in this particular town was the centre of resistance to the Industrial Revolution. So, presumably, by returning to local industry, which is what you're trying to do, is to switch the clock back to that situation with all that's gone in between, using the technology that's happened in between, but nevertheless getting back to ordinary people controlling the basic industries. You haven't got any power other than personal, and that when it comes to the crunch point and they turn their powers of the police and move you on, how are you going to resist it at this point?
If a confrontation does happen, for us we would still hold our ground, and we will still carry on, no matter what happens. Although working day life for the people in this area is a drudgery and they slog away. At the same time, I think the system feeds you palliatives, and, you know, so they have their televisions and you manage to get your material goods on fairly easy terms. You know, the government or people in authority will make sure that you don't starve. No, they'll keep you at a contented level, just at a contented level. You know, and for us this is very difficult. You know, in St Anne's I think we've got a little bit of an advantage in that there are small personal crises with families and rehousing and the whole business of redevelopment. And although we can see the political implications of it, it's terribly hard to get over to, you know, the local people. I mean, you've got to take away the bad bricks of the old building, so to speak, but you also build something different, you know, to replace that.
So in other words, you're not entirely rejecting technology and advances that have been made?
No. I mean, I reject technology in so much its efficiency is geared towards profit making, or in so much efficiency, again, is geared towards producing lots of useless goods, you know, or things that wear out quickly. But I think it's good technology. I mean, it has improved life to a great extent, but with it, because of the bad system that goes with it, I think it's brought lots of problems where people think more of money than of people's needs.
Watch it. Sticky shit. Whip it right over the other way now.
Perhaps a lot of people don't really understand we're working for. You know, people say that today we have democracy in Britain, but when you look at it, I think the whole real meaning of life is just completely lost under the present economic system. You know, revolution isn't just an abstract set of ideas. And the important thing that we're trying to show is that people can control their own lives. Anyway, no matter what happens, we must keep on working for change.